lies and more bullshit. So the American people went out in droves, and they voted the Republicans back in.
Right.
But then again, but now if the Republicans, it's a cycle, it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
We've seen it time and time again. But now, if the Republicans drop the ball, if they fail to revive things, then it'll swing back the other way again. The American people, every now and then, they will stand up and say we've had enough. It works that way with politics. But I don't see it.
It's an interesting parallel because just think, you got a lot of independent thinkers, third parties, and again, it goes back to what we were talking about before. Follow the money trail, right? Just like with politics, and this is where the two are very much alike, and it goes back to your point earlier that it rolls downhill. Okay, you've got the major political parties, and they have all the money, and so you've got a lot of really great third-party candidates that can't even be heard, or even be seen, or they're mocked.
Right.
Because they're a third-party candidate, they're a whack job, and then someone will go so far as to say he's a communist. You don't know what he is, and it's much the same as with independent musicians. Independent music. Oh yeah, well yeah, some guy in his garage beating on a drum or what have you, and people's perception of independent versus what independent actually is are very, very, very different.
It's so many things are just words. It's like alternative music. What?
Yeah.
It's like that has to end. Alternative to what? It's like words lose their meaning. You can take any word, be it tree or chair, road, map, whatever, and if you say it over and over and over, eventually it starts to become surreal. Like, what does that mean? And then much of our language does come from, the Greek or whatever. And of course, the English, even though it is the English language, Americans, we tend to butcher the English language, and the words have different meaning. Like, a good example is like, if somebody's name is Richard, we have to call them Rich. We shorten people's names. It's like we have our legal names, and Christopher becomes Chris. I think it's just more of the casualness of us, where like the English are more of a formal people, so the English language has been kept more to how it was intended to, because it's but we out of respect, because that's the language. But anyway, getting back to, it's just a word, and words, over time they lose relevance, but we still use them. Independent artists. It's like, you're either an artist or you're not, I think.
Right.
Was Beethoven an independent artist? Because he wasn't on a major record label. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, and it's. I think when you use that word, like independent or alternative or underground or whatever, or garage, sometimes you can wear it with pride, but I think there's always going to be that part of the other side that they read differently into that. I don't know, like genres, I was faced with that with this album. My distributor in Portland, wanted to know, okay, what box are we going to put you in on this album? Your other albums we put in the Americana genre. Is this the same? And I really didn't want. I was talking with my
rep.
Can't
put you in a genre, Pete. You don't.
Well,
you don't
but
fit
they have
a predefined genre.
The reality, I know, Jack, but the reality is, when you're on a label or when you're dealing with a distributor, they do have to label it. They have to, okay, it's rock or it's rap or it's punk or it's country. And I was telling them, I said, look, man, I think that this is just a rock. This is rock. But, you run into, it's hard to clarify, because, rock can be AC/DC and it can be Barry Manilow, and at the same time, so they're going to put it out as Americana. I'm sick of it. I really, I can't stand that that whole Americana label, because yeah, Americana, it can be really great country rock, but it can also be some guy picking a. It could be somebody picking a banjo. It could be bluegrass. You know what I mean?
It could be folk. I mean, Americana can cover just about anything, really.
Right, but yeah, unfortunately, you got to always be defining yourself, because if you just you're dealing with the American people who want to know what it is. It's like, if you're going to get somebody to. If you're going to try to drive somebody to your website or get somebody to really listen, you got to give them a reason to. And unfortunately, just saying, well, I'm totally unique. I don't sound like anything else. That
doesn't paint any kind of picture, because they think it's different, and of course
exactly.
they think he's different, and then they start thinking he's that kind of different. Yeah.
Well, people want to, but really, you got to paint some kind of interesting picture. Like, well, people say, well, what do you sound like? And I said, well, I'll just use an example. The example I'm about to use doesn't necessarily pertain to my music, but you might use an example like, well, if Frankenstein and Iggy Pop, sat down together and dropped acid and then went out and shot up a Wendy's, that's what my music's like. Wow, that sounds interesting. You gotta
I gotta remember that. I gotta remember that.
I'm just talking off the top of my head, total shit. But no, really, it's like, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I was thumbing through a magazine at Borders just yesterday. I was killing some time before I headed out to downtown to do my interview on WGN, and I was killing some time at the bookstore, and I was in the music section. I was looking through this cutting edge music magazine, and I'm flipping through it, and I'm just totally flipping through it, and one band really caught my eye, and it was just their picture, their whole image made me stop and read about them. And the reason why is because they look so damn different. They just really, their look, and they looked really wild. They looked like a cross between Motley Crue and Kiss and the Ramones. They were
wow.
Like all in black and leather, and their faces were like heavy makeup, and they were retro, but yet they were kind of goth and punk, and they looked really scary. And I thought, wow, this band looks interesting, and they caught my attention. They weren't just like a bunch of fucking hippies, standing up there in their jeans, and you know what I mean?
And they didn't have the preppy, washed, cleaned up look either. They didn't have the Bieber thing going on. Actually, I think Bieber fits him better.
Yeah, that too. But I get so bored with it's like bands. I'll go, I'll be at a festival, I'll look up there, and you'll see like a bunch of old guys up there, whatever, and they're up there in their short pants and their sandals, and they're wearing their caps. It looks like they either got off their boat or they just drove straight from work and got up there, and they're just standing there, and it's like, well, why should I devote my time to this? It's show business. Show business. You're supposed to be putting on a show. You're supposed to be entertaining the audience. Why aren't you doing this? And the artists and bands are always going to be successful. Are always going to be those that can grab your attention.
Mm-hmm.
that can really reach out and engage an audience, and that it's not just the sound. Unfortunately, I'm not saying use sex, because that's a turn off. I think the greatest artists of all time, from Dylan, and onward, it wasn't about sex. It was about great songwriting, but yet there's also always something captivating that the great artists always find a way to engage you.
Where some it's their songwriting, others still it's controversy.
Yeah, and that's a good thing too. There's nothing wrong with that. But the controversy, just for the sake of controversy, that's the same philosophy as sex sells.
Yeah, that's the Howard Stern philosophy that's been overdone already.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why things happen the way they do. I don't have any answers. What do I know, man? I'm just